Hello and welcome to the Through the Pain podcast. This is a place for chronic pain and chronic illness warriors to dare, dance, and dream through the pain.
Hello, everybody. Today is going to be a great day for the Through the Pain podcast. I'm absolutely excited about this individual I'm going to interview. You're going to hear his story. His name is Hertz Nazaire, and he's a sickle cell survivor. He has the SS disease. And after a very painful experience in the hospital in 1997 and 1998, he picked up his paintbrush and started a series of paintings, vividly describing his experience with sickle cell disease. The 3 paintings in this series are entitled 10 Redefined, Hope, and Need Not Suffer Alone. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to present, and please join me in welcoming the art advocate extraordinaire, Hertz Nazaire.
Hello, Hertz. I want to thank you for joining me on the Through the Pain podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well.
That's great. I want to first off tell you how much I admire you. I've been following you since early 2000s when I saw your prolific artwork explaining pretty much how we feel, what's going on in our bodies with your sickle cell art. Could you tell me a little bit about what inspired you to start creating those wonderful pieces?
Yeah, that just came from spending 2 weeks in the hospital and having the same old frustrations, really, because they released me early, or they released me before I was even well enough to have no pain. So I was in pain when I got back home, and I spent the night creating 2 of those pieces. My art supplies were supposed to be for something else, but I was just in pain, and I just decided to create those first 2 of the series. So basically, it was just my pain pushing me towards this thing, you know.
Wow.
So it wasn't really planned out or anything. It was just spending 2 frustrating weeks sick in the hospital and being in pain. So it was a night I was feeling sick, and I just came from the hospital, so that started it.
Wow. So you mentioned your frustration with having sickle cell. I'm just going to kind of go back. Can you tell me about your sickle cell journey? How were you diagnosed, and what are your treatments?
Yeah, I was born in Haiti, so yeah, I was diagnosed when I was 6 months old, and basically, in Haiti there's a lot of what you call that. There's a lot of stigma when you're sick, and people would say you're cursed or there's some kind of voodoo hex or some kind of weirdness, So it wasn't always great to be sick, and Haiti is a poor country, and there's not really much going on there. So when I turned 8 years old, I came to the United States with my mom. And basically, it's just been that journey for a long, long while. Just dealing with sickle cell and learning and navigating the process and navigating through what happens with sickle cell. Basically, is just like always finding that you have some roadblocks with the ER or getting your care and things like that. Having to learn how to advocate for yourself, having to learn what sickle cell awareness is, because you basically really have to go out there and push for this disease to be acknowledged or paid attention to. So it's been a lot more work than it necessarily is for any other type of disease that somebody can go through.
So some time ago, a doctor we affectionately call Dr. Z did a TED Talk, and you were the featured topic of conversation during that TED Talk. And when it came to healthcare reform and advocating for justice and respect in the healthcare in the hospitals. So he spoke about a situation that happened to you when you were thrown out of the hospital. Can we talk about that? Can you describe what happened?
Yeah, it was basically one of those around the same year that I created the Sickle Cell series. I was getting sick a lot that year. And it was one of those nights where I basically called the ambulance because I don't really have anybody with me when I'm sick. My mom died when I was 14 years old. So to have a parent there when you're a child and they're taking care of you, it's different. You have somebody to count on, to be there for you. So after I lost my mom, basically it was always me. I had adults around, but they weren't really like my mom. They weren't really going to the hospital with me. I always have to call the ambulance by myself. Nobody would visit me, that type of thing. So I wasn't young anymore. I was in college at the time, but it was still the same old routine. You call the ambulance, they pick you up around 2 a.m. And I was basically wearing, what I was sleeping in, just my shorts and a Fruit of the Loom t-shirt type thing, and basically going through the routine. But the ambulance took me to the ER, and since I've been up for 8 hours, because usually I'm not gonna go to the emergency room. I'm not gonna rush to the hospital unless I know this is a serious crisis, because I just don't want to deal with the mess we deal with. So you take your time. You try to see if this thing will feel better. If you take a Tylenol or two to see if you'll get better, but you don't get better after 8 hours of no sleep. So I went. By the time I got there, they gave me something, and I fell asleep. And by the time I woke up, they were packing my bags, telling me, you gotta go. I was still in pain, and I'm telling this doctor I'm still in pain. And they're like, no, we're sending you home. Here's some Percocets. And that was messed up, because the whole process was just like I didn't really have a way to get back home, and so I'm just resting in the waiting room. They called the security guard on me, and basically he rushed me out of the hospital. So I had to walk in the snow outside around the building to the front of the hospital just to call a friend of mine from college to come and pick me up.
So hold up. And you said that you only had your Fruit of the Loom teas, and when you left the hospital.
I'm walking in the snow outside.
Oh my gosh!
Because
which is putting you at greater risk, because you are a sickler. I mean, come on.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's like
that's an amazing. That's the thing is that still happens today, and
I know it still happens. It still happens.
It's still happening, and My question to you, this is actually a personal question because
Mm-hmm.
I go through a lot of the same things. As a woman of color, I'm not, they don't believe me. And, but they will believe a woman who's having a baby. Great, I understand that she's giving birth to a baby, but I had 2 children, and sickle cell pain is like 10 times worse than giving birth. I'd rather have multiple children than have a sickle cell crisis. But I say all that to say, or to ask rather, as a sickler, what motivates you and drives you to keep pushing through the pain of it all?
Well, the first thing for me is that my mental health is more important than it is the pain. So I don't even use words like sickler because I just don't like to think myself negatively. Because the fact is, the first faces I've seen that used that word against me, I always wanted to fight them. They were always people who didn't have my interest in heart. So I always hated that word. But I know, warriors tend to use that word, so I always acknowledge it. But for me, it's always been a painful reminder that we have a long way to go because a lot of people started these words and they tend to be things that I just feel negative to me. So for me, fighting this pain is first to get my mind right because I always have to prepare myself just to go to the emergency room because no matter how bad I know the treatment might be, I don't want to be the one to instigate some kind of drama in the ER because I know the next person that comes after me, the next person that has sickle cell that comes after me, I might be remembered as the troublemaker, and they might see that they have the same skin color. This person's going to be trouble. So the mind frame is always the first step for me. It's always getting your mind right. It's not fair. You're in pain. So you shouldn't have to be carrying all that burden of getting your mind right or acting right or preparing yourself. These people should be prepared to take care of you. But no, you have to do all that work before you go, just to make sure that you are being responsible and accountable to the community so that you're not a person who's leaving behind a mess that they will remember and treat somebody else bad because you gave them a hard time. So for me, I always hold up to these accountability things. I put myself accountable first. So I try to educate myself. I try to educate those around me who's struggling with this. But it's still a tough road. It's still a tough road. Look, even though I'm taking the best new medication possible out now, the newest things. The other day, I ordered some food from Amazon, and they basically from fluids. They were some fluids. And I haven't been having sickle cell crisis at all, not for over 10 years. But the problem I'm still having is I'm weak,
Yeah.
So the boxes came, they were heavy. And for some reason, my post office worker, whoever, the mailman, the mail person, mail delivery person, couldn't deliver these boxes to my mailbox because they were heavy, and she happens to be disabled. And so she leaves a note in my box saying, "Come and pick up your packages from the post office that's 2 blocks down the street." So I go to the post office with a little rolling thing, and it's 2 blocks away. I don't have a car, and there were some heavy boxes. I put them into this little rolling thing that I could pull. Even with that, every few steps I had to sit down because I'm passing out. I'm weak. I can't go anywhere. I can't walk 2 blocks without feeling dizzy or passing out. So it's more than pain. Sickle cell affects so much. It's more than pain. As an artist, as a painter, I'm blind in one eye. People ask me to draw something sometimes for a client. They think just because you're an artist, hey, you should be able to draw this portrait. You should be able to do this. We'll pay you this much, or we'll do this, or we really need you to be the one to do this. But they do not understand, the frustration of trying to see how you used to see and you're unable to see, So, yeah, it's connected to so many things. It's connected to my mental health. It's connected to my self-esteem. It's connected to how I feel about myself because I am passing out in the middle of the street. Even if I'm not having a crisis, I'm dealing with so many things. I can't sleep at night because of insomnia, because you spend so many years of late hours in pain. Insomnia becomes a pattern in your life. So yeah, it's not easy for anyone out there with dealing with sickle cell. So there's nothing I can say that's gonna solve anything for anybody because we all going through this in our different ways.
Stick around. We'll be right back after this. If you leave a 5-star review and I happen to read it on air, you'll be eligible to receive deep discounts on our Through the Pain merchandise. We'll be back after this. Please send your questions or show ideas to contact@throughthepain.org.
Right. And you meant I need to apologize because a fellow warrior told me that there's a difference between a sickler and a sickle cell warrior, and I have to keep reminding myself that we are sickle cell warriors and not have that negative spin of calling. I have to get myself out of that space of saying the word sickler. So thank you for that reminder again. Because as a sickle cell warrior, we are individuals that participate in our care. We're fighting, and the fact that we're still alive after all that we go through, we're warriors. So thank you for that gentle reminder. I appreciate it so much.
It's the part of it. It's not for you to change your mind or for you to have the words. You should feel free to use the words that you identify with. But the thing is, it's that the pain from a person who's gone through it, like I've gone through this, and the people who were calling me that word weren't people who cared about me. They were real vicious, racist people, that I felt like fighting. It shouldn't be that you feel like you're sick right now and you feel like jumping out of the bed fighting a doctor. That shouldn't be it. Right. But you see the hate in that person's eyes. And this person is not out for your best interest. So when those words came out of his mouth, it was like, he wanted to say the N-word.
Oh, right.
That's what he wanted to say. And there's not many diseases you can point out that has any ER word connected to it. No.
What's sickler?
So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you have diabetes, you're diabetic. You don't have an ER word connected. So there's a lot of things, So even if they meant sick, you're not sick all the time, So you don't have to have a label that says this. So I can deal with the warrior because I know that we fight a lot. We fight to struggle through this. We fight to survive this because this thing is a killer. So many of us go down. I watch my Facebook feed, and so many people that I follow, they lose the battle early on, and it's sad all the time. So yeah, in their memory, and for the reasons I go through it, I always have to reject the word because it's sad for me to hear it.
Wow. Wow. So you talked about the stigmas that are associated with sickle cell disease, but I'm noticing in the wake of George Floyd's murder, we're starting to get a lot of allies within the Black community. There's a lot of allies with the Black Lives Matter movement, and I'm seeing some traction. And I'm noticing that there's people that want to help now. They're finally listening to people with sickle cell disease. How can these new allies better support us? Do you think they can?
Well, so what's happening now is a remarkable amount of traction and a remarkable change, but it came from somebody's death, and it wasn't the last time somebody died from a police or anything. It's not going to be the last time because it just happened recently in Atlanta. So the thing is, sickle cell has been around for over 100 years. And fighting against racism has been around for much, much longer. For us to have sickle cell here, it means it had to be someone that came over in the ships that the slaves came in. So somebody had sickle cell in those ships, Somebody who was a slave out in those plantations, still with sickle cell. So you understand how, for me to have sickle cell, for you to have sickle cell, somebody survived a hell of a lot.
Right.
Even with sickle cell, Even with sickle cell, somebody had to survive a hell of a lot. So yes, there shouldn't be any separation between our community and understanding our illness. But yeah, racism is really, really hard stuff. We deal with it every time we go to an ER and we get turned away. Every time we go to the ER and they see a drug seeker, we deal with that. We call it a stigma, but what it is racism.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the thing is, our community has always been on the front lines of facing these things. The reason why we didn't have any drugs for over 20 years to take care of our illness was because we were ignored and invisible to the world. So yeah, I don't know what they can help us with, because really what they're fighting is very important to change things around this, because look, I'm Black. So if I'm going to walk down the street and I'm going to have an interaction with a police officer, I want it to be peaceful. I want to be able to come home safe and sound, So, yeah, I don't know what they could do to help us, but for me, I don't wait for somebody to help me. That's why I'm an advocate for myself. That's why I'm an educator. That's why I go out there and do things. That's why I still paint about sickle cell. That's why I still put my artwork on everything that is possible for people to have tools to raise, the attention that this disease needs. So, yeah, what they can help us with is spread a positive image about, health. And helping volunteering to local sickle cell organizations, volunteer when we need help, come to our walks, get the bodies out there to come to those walks, when we have walkathons and things, events, participate, be partners in that way. So that's all I can say about it, because talking about race and talking about what's going on sometimes it's so depressing and disheartening sometimes.
I absolutely agree with you. I feel like my body has been kind of feeling every painful blow of what's been going on the outside. Do you sometimes feel that way? Does your body take on the stress?
I soak up every negative energy like a sponge, you know. I don't know if it's part of being an artist or part of anything. I can't watch the news without feeling sick. So yeah, it's just I have to put some of those things aside. I can't even watch any of this stuff sometimes because it's just too much for me. So you have to know your limits, or you end up with a crisis. I used to do that. I used to end up in the hospital so much because I allowed the stress to put me into a crisis. But it is true. It's out there. It just gets to you.
Right. So what's next for you? What are you planning to do? Do you have more art or more advocacy efforts down the pike? What do you want to see more from you?
Yeah, right now it's just like, with the COVID stuff and everything else, I've just been trying to stay safe and everything, but I am working, like you said, Dr. Z put out, this TED Talk. It's been nice to collaborate with these doctors, but I met Dr. Z while I was doing the rounds with the drug companies, trying to learn about their new drugs, trying to sit at their table and tell them, advocate and teach them. These drug companies open these doors for some of us to come in and speak to them. So I was one of these few folks that came in and I spoke to them. So I'm still in touch with some of these companies and I'm working with them, and they have their drugs, and I'm just encouraging them to continue to work towards finding tools for us to use and to be better, to do better, to live a better life. So I have them as clients where I'm doing some artwork for them for their offices and stuff like that, for them to raise awareness. I'm speaking to them, during Sickle Cell Awareness Day or World Sickle Cell Day, and so I'm still doing these events, So what's next? It's just I'm still fighting in my own way, trying to help the community. I don't always like doing sickle cell artwork all the time because it's always a heavy thing to carry. Sickle cell is, very personal for me. And it's not only that it's personal for me, but I had a lot of friends who have passed on because of this illness, who have had succumbed to this struggle, and I carry myself in a way that I have to continue to fight because what happened to them, is going to be something that's going to continue to happen to the young ones who come after me if I don't continue to fight to make it better for them. So it's a responsibility I feel, It's not always something I have the energy for, but it is always important that if somebody calls me up and say, hey, can you talk to me about your life or interview or tell us something, what has the, what has the road been for you? What, how things, or if somebody wants to know what my life is about, even if I don't want to share it, even if I feel like I'm depressed, even if I haven't been sleeping, I'll share it because you never know who's listening. You never know who you can touch or who can learn something or who can avoid some of the things that you've done that wasn't helpful for you. So, that's the only thing I can do in this community. I feel that You know, a lot of people look at me and they think your art is great and, you know, you're doing well. That's all good and great, but I'm not different than any of you guys. Once I go to the emergency room, they see exactly what they see, you know, when you go in. So we're all in this fight together.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't really matter what I'm working on right now, what you guys working on. You know, what are you guys doing? You know what I mean? What's up? You know, you're fighting too, right? So I want to encourage you guys to do something too. That's all.
Wow.
That's the message I can do. That I can put out there is that, you know, she's doing something, I'm doing something. You guys are listening. What are you doing? You know, keep trucking, keep it moving, keep fighting. You know,
right?
Keep it positive. You know. So if you hear I don't like Sickler, somebody else don't like Sickler out there. So tell them you heard that I said I don't like Sickler. You know what I mean? So we're learning. That's all. Right. You know, we're keeping it moving. That's all we can do.
I know you say you're not different from anybody else. You're just the same. Your humility, man, I thank you so much for humility. But I'm going to just tell you, you're like one of my heroes. You have kind of led me down the path. You don't even know it. I've been watching him from afar for such a long time now, and you've helped lead me down the path of expressive therapy. So I just want to thank you for that. I'm humbled, and I'm so blessed that you have been able to be on this podcast and share your story. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate you. So everyone,
I appreciate you too. I appreciate you too. I see
you
your
are
work.
so awesome. Oh, you do? Oh my God!
I see your work. I see your work. You know,
that means a lot.
I always see you pushing so hard for us. I see you. So thank you for what you do.
For tools, merchandise, and additional information, log on to our website, www.throughthepain.org. This has been a Public Praise Media production.